All right. Hi, everybody. Thank you for being here. It's December 4th. We're meeting here as a governance committee. And present, we have Nana Pearson, Fred Renato, and Sharon Vickers. We are here to discuss the pertaining policies for our committee, which are the agency bylaws, the anti-harassment policy, the board of directors duty and responsibility, code of ethics, conflict of interest, oil policy, the local labor policy, and the whistleblower protection policy. So discussion is open. The overall goal is to come back to the rest of the board with a suggestion of either making any changes to laws, or we feel like the policies are good as they stand. So, I guess the floor is open. We can start with the first one, which is the agency bylaws. And
for me, I just saw like a typo on page 11, a note that I had made for Bob that I accidentally left there. Need to remove that. And then on page 12, I just had an interesting note. Said that the chairman of the IDA shall be designated by the Common Council of the city.
Really?
Yeah. So that's not I'm not requesting a change. I'm just saying something I found interesting. So it does say that there. So in December we will be doing votes, for I dread that. I think it's probably I assume you guys are all gonna vote the same, but when you guys change it up, it's complicated doing the ballots and all that. But usually we just, I usually just poll everybody, do you still wanna be chair, do you still wanna be secretary, do you still wanna be whatever? If anybody says no, then it's up for voting. If everybody says,
I think we have enough people for a no.
well, like if you say you don't wanna be chair anymore, then that changes everything. If she says she wants to be chair or anything, that changes everything. It only stays the same if everybody's okay with being exactly what they are. So I will be sending out emails. But for the purpose of tonight, that I have no comments on bylaws unless any of you.
There's no process though, when we have things like that, and that's fine. When it says the city is designated, the bylaws don't include a process for how that happens.
Good point.
We can ask.
Well,
let me
right
say-
now, it's like a sleeping bear. I let it snore a little bit longer.
Yeah, so that's entirely true. So I will say that some of these policies that we have, we inherited when
Right.
Terry fixed the IDA, Terry and the board at that time. And so you might find that another IDA has the exact same policies and format as we do, and it wasn't necessarily that was in place because of them. That might have just been whatever lawyer drafted this up. So if you wanted to fine tune that, then that would be a Bob question. But it's not necessarily that it was put there with any kind of intention or anything like that.
Right.
Can you I was trying to pull it up on my.
Yeah.
When we attended the discussion in Hyde Park back then, wasn't there supposed to be a separation between the local government and the IDA?
So it does talk about that in the bylaws, and I had highlighted some of that. We can go over that as soon as she.
Like the only way the IDA
No, my
can
phone.
fundamentally reform is by not being part of, and that was the check and balance.
So I think there are two different mentions that I read over it. In the Board of Directors duties and responsibilities, it does say that a board member is not, and in the past 2 years has not been employed by a public authority or an affiliate in an executive capacity. So that's one thing. Is not a relative, this was another one that was interesting, but I think that maybe it doesn't apply anymore after this month. Is not a relative or an executive officer or employee in an executive position of the public authority or an affiliate in the past years has been a lobbyist, blah, 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 blah. So that talks about being related to another board member, or somebody like me in the executive position or the public authority. The other one talks about
Yeah, because that part, the first part about the in the past 2 years that it has not been employed by the public authority or an affiliate in executive capacity. I think that's gonna be really important soon, just foreshadowing. Okay, based on this like a call it on the wind here and there.
well, I don't
I'm
know,
sorry, can you say that again?
I don't know if that means the IDA, I don't know if that means the
It's
city.
just, okay, so a board member, that's the one that she knows, and so. A board member or board member, start with that, so.
If you're pulling up on-
Is our board member board member, right? That's the general, so headline right there. So, conflict of interest, so board members, so this is mainly like conflict of interest type of thing. So board members or board nominees, so it's separation, okay, separation of board and management. No board member may serve as the agency's executive director or hold any other equivalent position while also serving as a board member. So no board member may serve as the agency's executive director. Okay, so also, so that's the next bullet is a board member or board nominee is not in the past 2 years or has not been. Yeah, so it's not in the past 2 years, has not been employed by the public authority or an affiliate in an executive capacity. So the public authority is that like Newburgh?
That's the IDA.
Mhm.
So
Or
a board member cannot have been, I can't be a board member. Like if I wasn't in my position today, it would take me another 2 years to be a board member.
oh, okay,
I'm realizing that now, it's public authority is the IDA.
do we wanna keep it like that? 2 years? Why not 1
I
year?
don't know if there's a reason for that.
Yeah, there must be a reason.
I mean,
That's the
That's
thing,
just-
there
that's
are
just-
some reasons here
there
that are
are-
not
that's-
implied.
that's just renting me being you being me. I don't think that goes the
It's
same
not
way.
in the past
Yeah,
2 years has not been employed by an entity that received remuneration value at more than 15,000.
No,
Okay.
yeah, that's just
Okay.
us switching, like, you could see, I can see how that's in conflict and.
My point is that it keeps getting bantered around that we work at the,
Behest.
of the city council.
Give me 1 second, that was one spot where it talked about, it. And the other one, page 11. Page 12, what did I highlight? There is, hold on, there is language,
Okay,
let me think about it.
and there's some
Um,
cross-checking that I think we need to do.
Remind me of your, okay, wait, sorry, okay, no, I got it. Members of the IDA shall not be less than 3 or more than 7. Members shall be appointed by the Common Council of the City of Newburgh and shall serve at the pleasure of the Common Council. A member shall continue to hold office until his or her successor is appointed and has qualified. Any one or more members may be an officer or an employee of the city. However, at not any time a majority of the IDA board membership be officers of employees of the city of Newburgh.
Afterwards,
So you're 7, 4 or more is in conflict. 3 and below is not.
Okay, thank you for.
And,
clarifying.
Or unrelated, for who are not also employees of,
you cannot have 4 city employees, you could have 3 city employees.
oh, okay.
That it can't be the majority.
Correct.
Mhm. Okay.
Um,
Fine with that.
and,
Cause the whole point, the whole point was that the IDA needs to work independently,
Exactly.
not driven by constituents. Voters, right, like
Mhm.
we're working for the benefit of the city council and the town, but we're not driven by being reelected.
That's right.
We're just working
Or keeping
on
our
good
jobs.
ethics.
That's right.
Good ethics and, you know,
Mm-hmm.
okay.
Clear about that.
Yeah.
One thing that I'd like to know, and this is the question for Bob, because he can scan through the charter quicker than I can. But if it's in the charter, that, is there some designation in the charter that says that the common city council designates the chair of the IDA?
the one that okay, the thing that I brought up.
Yeah, is that in the charter?
Where was that again? We're discussing,
That was on the, leave on
what's the
the
first one?
board of directors duties.
Right.
And I said that was on page.
And that was like the first few pages.
I did highlight that. Where did I just say that? Board of Directors duties and responsibilities, that's the first one on it? No, we're doing agency bylaws first, right?
Yeah. So my question is it designated also in the charter or in other words, if we were to change that, do we have the authority to change that?
Sure. Page
So that
12.
the chair is
elected
by the board itself? By a majority vote?
And
No. No.
Am I happy?
I don't think we were. I think we were at that time.
No, yeah, I think that-
Charter, okay, and.
And mostly what I'm concerned about is to what extent does our bylaws come into alignment with the charter?
Yeah.
You know, so that we're aligned there as opposed to the sentiment of
Right.
a group of people
Right.
who created it a long time ago.
I'm pretty sure this is in line with whatever charter, or, you know, whatever, I'm pretty sure it was like copy and paste, and then along the line, it was.
Yeah.
But-
And that, right.
Double check.
The only other thing I had about this was not the bylaws, this was in the ethics.
Okay, so
segment.
let's just
Yeah,
go one by
let's-
one.
Yeah,
So the bylaws, we have a question for but as of now, we're not recommending any changes.
no,
I have a
no
question.
changes, I just wanna see how these things line up,
Okay,
alignment with the charter.
Great, I would never thought of that. Yeah, you gotta like cross-reference them. Make sure
Yeah.
We're like saying the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Makes sense.
okay, so no recommended changes for the bylaws. What's the next one?
And then in the same thing, the question about the chair.
That is the same one.
Okay.
Yeah.
The next one is anti-harassment policy.
And let me look at, see if I have
I didn't have
any,
any
No changes, yeah.
I don't have any.
don't do it.
I have no suggestions, and because Marlon is still the chair and Chrissy is still the vice chair, you will remain the officers of contact if somebody has a complaint. So no changes, then we move on to the next one.
And the next one is board of directors duties and responsibilities.
So I was just highlighting, you know, what I was talking about regarding. Just like stuff, you know, you read this and you're like, oh, but I don't have anything to change. I was just like, oh,
Yeah, I didn't have anything here as well.
No,
And also I'll just say Bob will read this and he will let you know if he has any.
okay. So
There,
duties and responsibilities to fill the 2 open positions.
So that is actually where I wouldn't even know where to start, but maybe if we could have like a timeline,
Yeah, do we ask that question of Bob, like,
we should have a
I think
nominee.
that's completely at the pleasure
Okay.
of the behest of
Yeah.
the governing
Okay.
municipality, like that talks about, that doesn't get into that, or
Okay.
and that part,
I'm just wondering about attendance stuff,
it does talk about that, to your point.
but it's not in the task, is it at all?
I'll tell you one thing, the minimum for what you're talking about, so that says the minimum board members we can have to operate is 3 and the max 7. So as long as you have more than 3, you guys can operate, there's no problem. The only problem is that you're an even number and.
Right.
So
Right.
that can cause that.
And
Now,
we just, we're not getting ideas and energy.
I 100% agree, but when I saw that we can operate with a minimum of 3,
Okay.
they have no rush,
Right.
according to our, if I were them, I would say, according to your bylaws, you have more than enough to operate. Now, to Yanni's question about attendance, it does talk about, I think it talks about that in the meetings for the bylaws, and it talks about non-excused absences. You cannot have non-excused absences, I think, more than 33% of the time. It doesn't talk about excused absences. And I think that 33% was derived from 12 board meetings, not
Right.
10. So if there have been more than that, unexcused, I think any one of you all can like write a letter or like request that person be removed. The city manager also has that power, according to this, to remove that person as well, if that person wants to.
The city manager does?
If that person wants to contest that.
Is that always been the case, the city manager having the?
If for unexcused absences, it's only for the way it's worded here, if you wanna give me a second, I can find it, but it talks about only unexcused absences. Let's see.
'Cause, I mean, someone could have, and so there's an unlimited amount of unexcused absences.
No, it talks about a specific amount. Of unexcused,
Okay, but I said that backwards.
correct, I know. what you mean.
There's unlimited excused absence, so
I think-
someone could be absent for a whole year, but if they let us know.
Mhm.
And how fairly.
No member shall have accumulated 4 or more unexcused absences
Okay,
amounting to less than 33% of total number of regularly scheduled and properly noticed meetings, such as body within an immediate preceding 12-month period.
okay,
Unexcused shall mean the failure of such member to attend such a meeting without having given advance notice to the chairperson or vice chairperson that such member would be absent. Any member of the city council, the city manager, and or member of the body may petition in writing that a member of such body be terminated as a member for failure to comply with this local law, including the attendance policy. Such petition shall specifically state the grounds, including facts and circumstances upon which the request for termination is based. The petition shall be served by mail. The presiding officer shall ensure that a copy of the petition has been provided. So yeah, then, yeah, corporation, city manager or city council, but it's, the way I'm interpreting this here is for failure to comply with this law of attendance. If you wanna enact, you want people to attend a certain amount regardless of excuse or inexcused, then that's.
yeah, cause.
Do you wanna just make that, so what is it, you have 10 meetings a year. what's a third of those meetings? What's a third of 10?
Right.
3 point something.
Yeah,
So if you're missing 3 point something. Or do you wanna make it?
I
you know,
would,
half?
I'm just trying to think here. The truth of the matter is that
Yeah.
if we are not negatively impacted
Mhm.
by a member who's always absent,
Mhm.
then there's no problem with that bylaw. But if it affects our ability to make quota, that would impede
Mhm.
us being able to make decisions if we had 1 or 2 members who were out a lot. And I think
Well,
we
again,
don't wanna be,
the vote, we only need 3 to make a vote. And,
Well, you need 4 to make a quorum.
4 to make a
quorum,
quorum.
yeah, I said quota, I mean
Yeah,
quorum.
quorum, but for the most part, the people who are being appointed to committees and who are volunteering to do above and beyond are the people who are invested, so we're getting the work done. And it's not a problem yet.
Yeah, and that's why I'm saying, I'm exploring if it is not a problem, cause the unexcused doesn't really help. I mean, you can have,
Right.
an excused absence, and still it could be
What
disruptive.
constitutes?
So it's just trying to figure out, does it negatively impact us if we have a member who just is out a lot and it doesn't really?
So we had a scenario like that,
No, he did.
yeah, with Mike,
Yeah, he was out a lot.
yeah,
Yeah.
for, once. I would say, well, I mean, to this day, right, that position is still there,
Mm-hmm.
so. It hasn't affected us, but,
It impacts the diversity, I think, of your decision
Mhm.
making, like
Yeah.
having that extra person there.
Right,
Mhm.
I mean, not having a full board, not having that
Mhm.
energy, not having those ideas, not
Exactly.
having the discussion, everyone brings something interesting to the table. If you're not there at the table, then it's just diluted.
Yeah, it does have an impact.
it's there because we're, in the worst case scenarios, we'll need it.
Right,
Mm-hmm.
That's why, so maybe we should actually start enforcing it. And maybe start next year, hey, y'all, by the way, we gotta have a conversation about attendance. Because right now,
I
it
mean,
could be a situation where we're,
you're either passionate about it or you're not.
well.
Right, and I think
yeah,
maybe having
I-
that conversation with
It's
people
usually-
before it gets to
Yeah.
that.
Usually, you always, anytime when it's time to do any sort of like, let's call it. Correction, whatever, right? It's just always best to have a conversation about this.
Right.
And
Mhm.
say what's like about to happen, so,
If
we
that
could-
didn't get and if you didn't get anywhere with that.
No, I mean,
Doing that.
behaviors that you're covered, anytime, it's always, we talking, you know? So the worst part is if we're in a situation where we're short a person, and then the person has been missing, then is an important decision day, and then has to abstain because it has part of the information, not all the
Mhm.
information. And then you have a developer that's on a timeline because now their finances are like, you gotta sign this document by Friday because this document has to be delivered, and now what do we do?
Mhm.
Do we have an emergency meeting now? So because this person keeps being late, so I think we need to emphasize that.
I think
Or
you,
can we vote by proxy? Is there anything prohibiting us from voting by proxy if because sometimes life circumstances, like you're sick.
1,000%.
well, and there's also, like, I think there's also provisions in here for like attending over the phone.
Mm-hmm.
But there was something I was gonna say.
We need to
Um,
exercise that more.
I think, when you guys give your recommendations to the board,
Mm-hmm.
you can make a note of like, we discussed that, there is a provision in there for unexcused absences, and although I'm putting words in your mouth right now, but like, although we decided not to change that,
Yeah.
we would like to
Shouldn't.
reinforce the importance of everybody attending board meetings, because especially since we are one board member short. And something along those lines of how you all, and then you insert your feelings there of how you all feel about attendance. I was gonna say something else. Also, you know, your committee has 3 people, the audit finance committee, Mike was a member of that, he's not there, so that's
Right.
Kristen, Adam, and if one of them can't come, I have no committee. So it's been harder to get them to meet because, It's just-
Professionals, people have things to do.
yeah, Chrissy is really, she's like in Manhattan every other day. So, and then his son's away in college and visiting. So it's been harder to get them to meet as a committee. And you see, we were scheduled last week and it didn't work, and then whatever, we pushed it back a week. So, you know, technically, the one board member I have right now, Teresa, who is on no board, I'm sorry, on no committee, we should ask her to fill in Mike's place. However, you know, there's,
Right.
it's
No, I
an
think we
empty
should
spot.
definitely bring it up, right? So I think we should disclose what it says there. Okay, we should start with this is with the policy, this is what it says in the policy. And I think that because of the lack, because we have empty seats, attendance now is more important than ever. So we just have to make sure that, and keep informed with all the applicants, because if it's the time to make a decision, you're, you know, whether you're yay or nay, is super important anyway, so.
Yeah,
Right,
I
because
was
then-
just thinking, when we bring this up, we talk about the bylaws, you know, governing bylaws versus board agreements, you know, like our culture with each other is that
Okay.
everybody's voice is needed. There's no one that, you know, whether it's negative or not, we're a small board, and so we need people's attendance. But that's, you know, I just think that it's important for us to talk about it.
Right.
So that's our agreement, right? So if we come onto the board, we agree, you know, that we will be at the meetings except for extenuating circumstances. And when we can't be at meetings, then it's fair to step off the board, really, and let somebody else.
So, but to your point, we entered into this agreement.
And that's
Well,
why Mike,
apparently.
and that's why Mike left, because he said, look, I've got too much going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
We had a lot going on.
And so Marlon's point, just have the conversation first. So if
Yeah,
you have that conversation as a board, then you've kind of done that communication part first. And also, if you're not attending, then it's not helpful that you attend the next meeting, but you have to abstain because
Right.
you weren't around and you still might not have a quorum because
Right.
4 people show up and because somebody's absent, and now of the 4, we have an extension, so we only have 3, and now it has to wait till the next board meeting. So I think that did happen recently. I don't remember the scenario exactly, but you know, if you have to abstain, then also that takes away from the ability to have a quorum now that we're small. So we're at that. So,
yeah, I think it's important to bring these things up, just to, you know, so everybody knows we're thinking about all these things, and we should keep these things, you know, and
and like
yeah,
I was telling
we
Marlon,
won't recommend a
think-
change right now.
like I was telling Marlon, I feel like it takes new members like a year and a half to really feel confident. Maybe a year and a half to 2 to be like, yeah, to vote on this, right? In the beginning, you're voting, but you're like scared because you're like, I don't really know why you're saying yes, and you're not really sure.
It's abstract.
It takes time,
Mhm.
you know, so like.
Right.
You gotta show up. If you're not showing up within that 2-year time, it's gonna be even
That's
longer
right.
for you.
That's
Cause then you're not really contributing because you weren't around in the first 2 years to begin with, so
Mhm.
just throwing that out there.
But are we even officially keeping tally of attendance? If we're not, then what?
I could because I don't get, because it's only, the bylaws only mention unofficial. If I had somebody just straight up not show up and I did the packet and I'm waiting for you and you didn't tell anybody, then that would cause a reaction in me, and I've never had that happen. Everybody always at least tells me.
Right, so that's an excuse absent.
Correct.
That is an excuse.
Right, but
So,
you're still
but that-
limited to 4 of those
Yeah.
a year.
Yes.
I think we should talk about Just, yes, absenteeism in general, or whether it's excused and unexcused. And I think we should just keep tabs of it, because then we can talk facts, right, not like how we feel.
I understand.
So then, but the.
And I can always go back actually, because the minutes say who was there.
Yeah.
So I can just go back and look at the minutes and just
bring
tally.
that, just bring that, just do a quick little, yeah.
Tally.
Yeah, just do how we did in 20, just look at our performance for 2023. And then we have a data point going forward.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that the truth of the matter is this isn't really directed at any one
No.
person, but,
No.
and we're feeling it more because we have a permanent vacancy.
Correct.
Yeah, but
So, you know, we're starting off with 6, so if
also,
somebody can't come one day, we really notice
it
it.
makes someone feel comfortable enough to say like, okay, listen, I've got way too much going on, and I
Mhm.
just need to step down, like, we're such a great team.
We're adults here.
Right,
And we're, you know,
That's
we all
right.
don't wanna let each other down, and
Mhm.
sometimes you kind of hesitant about doing that. So you just sort of muscle through it, but if you really can't be dedicated, this is really important work we're doing.
Not only that, but also to your point, really you should read the material beforehand, not just show up, so it's
Right.
not just that you showed up, but I tried to give you all the material at least the week before, especially
Mhm.
over the weekend, you have it.
right.
You know, or like with the treasurer's report, I send that to Adam as soon as he kind of creates that, he's got that way ahead of time, usually before all of you. What was I gonna say? What else was I gonna say? With the minute.
Okay.
No, but I get it, you have to come prepared,
Right, it's not just,
right, it's not just showing up.
It's not just that part.
Being prepared.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are agreements, those go under agreements. Which are.
oh, I was gonna say, and Bob travels from Albany. So that's also why sometimes I send you guys text messages, cause it takes him an hour and a half to get here, and I know he's okay. It happens, like he's a lot more okay with it, but like. I would be pissed if I have to drive 3 hours
Oh, yeah.
in a day for something that didn't happen, so I really
Oh, yeah.
try to be considerate of his time. I don't think he charges us to drive to and from board meetings, you know, but like.
Doesn't?
I mean, I may show up late, but I'm gonna be there.
You know, no, and that's fine, no, that's fine, but like, you know,
But
just.
see, something were to happen, perfect example.
Yeah.
Let's say we have a situation where something happens in that bridge again. And then we have a person who's been absent, whoever that person is, and over the next year or two. It's been absent, and then now we have things on the docket that are requiring of decisions and votes. That right there just kills the whole movement, that adds another month or something.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's a great point, I think you guys, like, yeah, I'm sure you definitely, I'm grateful for it up, so we should definitely talk about it.
Yeah, you know, and also when we have another retreat, we could spend time on those agreements.
When did we have our last retreat again?
June,
Summer,
yeah.
So,
so there's no board meetings during this,
Mhm.
yeah, nice.
all right, so any
So what is that one again?
board,
So there was, I was looking for it in the task and responsibilities, but basically just saying, you know, when we report back on this, we're not recommending any change, but we wanna highlight that the duties and responsibilities in the bylaws are official governance, you know, documents. And yet there is something else, you know, and it has to do with the kind of board that we wanna be, the culture,
Yes.
you know, what we can expect from each other that may not be
Correct.
in this, you know, written down here, but some general people's agreements, you know.
And also because you guys are really the only
Yeah.
ones reading it. The same thing will happen with the
Yeah.
audit finance committee. Y'all are more than welcome to go and read all the policies they're responsible for, right? But really, you're digging in this, and then everybody else kind of assumes that your recommendations. So to that point, your like annual reminder that you get to give everyone
Right.
of the cliff
Mhm,
notes of
yeah.
like, hey, here's the reminder, cause you guys don't look at these things.
Right,
We just wanna like remind you about these things, cause
Mhm.
otherwise nobody's gonna sit and read that, right?
Yeah.
So
or you
use
read
it
it,
as.
you read it when you first come in.
That too, so
That's
it's
part of
your,
your duty.
it's your opportunity to like give people gentle reminders of stuff
Mm-hmm,
that are not on this committee.
yeah.
So board of directors duties and responsibilities, you have no recommendations, but you will give
Address
reminders on the board meeting.
Behavioral agreements, yeah.
Okay. What's the next one?
And the next one is code of ethics.
I just had one thing in mind.
Okay.
The wording, it says, no officer, member of the board, or employee of the agency should accept other employment which will impair his or her independence of judgment in the exercise of his or her official duties. This implies that if such an opportunity comes up, you will resign your position.
So I think that you will deny the business opportunity.
Ah, okay.
That's how you will,
Uh,
you can't
But,
accept it.
but the business, it's sort of, I think it specifically says employment,
Mhm.
and it's like, okay, you're a volunteer on a board.
Mhm.
You're a volunteer, you don't get paid, and you get this great opening comes up, opening in City Hall
I don't think.
for this position, and it's like, you will not be accepting that.
No, I think what it, and read it again, because when I read it,
It
I think
says-
it's that mainly, what with our interpret is like mainly like, if I am going to be employed by an organization that is directly impacted, like.
Yeah,
Not
so
more
I'll
about
read
what-
the first thing in front of it, because
Mhm.
these are the standards, but it says the rule. No officer, member of the board, or employee of the agency should have any interest,
Mhm.
financial or otherwise, direct or indirect. You know what
That's
indirect
almost
is.
impossible.
Or engage in any business or transaction of professional activity or incur any obligation of any nature, which is in substantial conflict with the proper discharge of his or her duties in the public interest. So part of conflict of interest is, it's misunderstood, because it's really about disclosing
Mhm.
primarily, it doesn't necessarily mean you can't do that, but you have to let somebody, that it was your brother-in-law who is, on this committee, and then it's expected that you would recuse yourself
Right.
from voting. But if you don't disclose it, that's the ethics, right? So, but here, I wanted to take it literally.
Okay.
Because,
Yeah.
because it's literal, and it says, if I'm on the board, okay, and I accept a position,
Right.
or someone says, yeah, apply for this position, it's great, position you've been waiting for your whole life. To me, it would be like a 2-hour-a-week position, but at this point, but I mean, and I'm not allowed to accept it. That's what this says, as opposed to what would really happen is
Mhm,
that I would accept it
mhm,
most likely and resign from the board.
mhm.
So I don't know, this is something I wanted,
think
Bob
it's
to
pretty-
weigh in on,
Yeah.
because
But it almost, when I read it, it almost felt standard though.
it says it's one of
It's
the
just telling you that
standards.
they cannot exist together,
Yeah.
so whether you stay
Whatever.
Right.
and you let go,
Yeah.
or you go and you.
Disclose and abstain.
Yeah, I
They
mean,
just
okay,
can't.
so
But I don't think we
it's
do that.
implicit,
Right.
it's implied, it's not explicit. My question was
Mhm.
something like that, should it be explicit that the two will not, you get offered another job, you're gonna resign from the board?
Yeah.
And then it's furthermore, it becomes even clearer when it says you can't share, if you take on a new position, you cannot share confidential information
Right.
that you were privy to while you were
Right.
on the board, so that is explicit, that's
Right.
very
Right.
clear.
Right.
But the first one just seemed like you know,
I did also
to
read it,
stay,
like,
like, no, you have to resign. If you take a
Yeah.
job,
It's
you
like
have to
you
resign.
have to resign.
No, I mean, if it's black and white, like, hey, your talents are, you've got great managerial skills, we'd love to have you be part of this organization, that's very different. How I'm looking at this is, vote for us, and here's a job.
Oh, okay.
Uh-huh,
That,
right.
I don't think they need, like,
I think that's
we
what it was.
really
It's
like
like,
your
maybe-
energy, come work for us.
Exactly,
You know?
right.
I interpreted that
Mhm.
as you guys.
That's the,
Yeah.
that's the spirit of it.
I interpreted it as you guys do public sector work, myself included. There's a private sector side to this.
Right.
Basically, you
Right.
all are getting economic development training 101. If somebody in the private sector offered any of you employment, myself included, whether it was like on the side as a one-day thing, consulting, whatever. And that private sector employment was with a developer who was an applicant before or something like that, then that's the scenario that
Right.
I imagine.
That's right,
Right.
right.
All of these just seem like, if you wanna narrow it down, it just seems that, you know, we are in this position, right? That impacts the city anywhere, right? And then that private sector, right? Actually, I'm probably gonna repeat what you're gonna say, cause like, as I'm like. Yeah. You know, it's, if it does come into an opportunity, I mean, like, yeah, you broke it down, like, the more that I think about it.
Yeah, and the code of ethics is really, it's the one place where appearances really is substantial.
Exactly.
You know, there's an appearance of impropriety,
Yeah, exactly.
even if there's nothing improper about it.
Right.
So,
Mm.
I think it's clear enough, it's okay, I think it's.
I mean, again, you can highlight it and say, hey, you know, at the board meeting, I don't have anything to change here, but I thought this was a really interesting paragraph, I'd just like to remind everybody.
Yeah, again, because I tell you, it's like, when we start to do our thing,
Yeah.
the way we're envisioning it, some of us will be attractive to other people, and they're like, I want more in this collaboration than just me, you know, yada yada, or share voting on. So it's like, I think, to bring it up and talk about it is important, because it could, things like this, it's amazing how things like that could just slip by you if you're not paying attention to it.
Yeah, it would,
You know,
it would-
like, hey, I want you, Mom, you know, I want you to come and meet my brother-in-law,
right,
you know, who's like right up your alley, man. You looking for clients? And you, yeah, I'm looking for clients, blah, 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 blah. But that person wants.
it's your brother though. I signed your thing.
Exactly.
So, it's, and so
And it's a
then
small
I
town.
think we should bring it up, but I think we have to be very, like, what's the word that I'm looking for? When we talk about it, we should talk about it in a way where, it doesn't make people feel targeted or anything
No,
like
no,
that, you know what I
no,
mean?
it's-
No, and
Yeah.
I think we have to do it, and I think we have to do it because we never actually have, like, talked about that. But I also to allow people to have agency to be informed, right? Maybe that's the position itself, to be informed, but, you know, it's be informed about this, you know, in your endeavors.
Yeah.
Or what Yanni said of disclosing, just
I think it's
disclose,
disclosing
just
is
disclose
important.
before it makes it look like you're hiding something,
Right.
so. Oh, I took somebody's pictures and I did it for free because
Right.
whatever reason you did, and I only did it because I was being nice. You know, the applicant, I took his wedding pictures. And it, you know, and it wasn't, you know, there was no kind of thing there, but just in case anybody thinks there's anything, I just want y'all to know, I took
Right,
his pictures.
exactly. Full disclosure, right? You just have to have.
He paid me or he didn't pay me or whatever, but I took his pictures. or I did his christening,
Yeah.
christening, whatever,
So
because
speak-
it's a small
Or,
town,
or, you know, Sisha, his wife is an acupuncturist,
right?
you know. His wife is an acupuncturist and
At
she
the-
runs a
okay.
community
Uh-huh.
That's his
acupuncture
wife?
center.
Yeah.
No way.
That's right. So let's say I go into business at some point and I start a healing center,
Right,
which I can do.
she's great.
Okay, but then I go and have Sisha's wife
Right.
come and work in my healing
That's where,
center.
I feel like that's where the
That's-
information part. I feel like the informing people.
And that's
is-
the,
No, they talk about that in the they talk
Yeah.
about that in the ABO, just, and when Austin was chair, there was more of an issue, cause like he was on the board of St. Luke's. There was a little bit more crossover maybe with other board members in the past, but like, again, as you get into doing more projects.
Yeah,
And
Yeah,
because this is
that's
such a
right.
small world, and if the developer is within this area, somebody's gonna have a point of connection with them in one way or the other.
I mean,
Mhm.
there are times I don't go to parties because I just don't. There's a million questions and I don't wanna answer the question.
Yeah,
I know
Yeah.
the feeling.
Mhm.
And then eventually, and
What's
It
going
gets
on,
like
you know,
that.
like Jake is like, we're having a barbecue, come over, and I was like, I can't. Sorry.
Exactly, you know, I think it's a discussion worth, you know, a brief discussion
Yeah.
worth
100%.
having, because it is appearances. Any kind of thing, especially like I said, if we really take off the way we're hoping, we could be 1 degree, 2 degrees separate from folks, you know, like, oh, you know, there's a book, someone wants to do a bookstore and that's my daughter's
Well, it's small
husband
city,
wants
that's
to
the
set
whole
up a
part.
bookstore, oh, but it's in a building that they
Right.
want a
Right.
pilot for.
it's a small city, and that's where for me,
Right.
it's great that you brought it up, right? Great that you guys brought it up, because it's a small city. I've always felt like that is gonna be a very fine line,
Mm-hmm.
always, because of just the size of it all. And just the number of businesses, which is not an abundant number, and the type of economy here, so we should have that conversation.
Yeah, and with Bob there, cause
Yeah.
then we have people become more and more clear about appearances versus, you know, disclosure versus just cross the line, you know, cross the line.
So we have that as another.
Okay.
All right,
so no changes.
no changes.
No changes, just good,
Reiteration.
yeah, reiteration. Okay, what's the next one?
Royal policy. I have nothing. no.
I have nothing on the
No.
foil. That's really straightforward,
Yeah.
please don't foil.
Yeah,
I mean, if they do, we have a way of taking the request of.
Mhm.
Then the local labor policy.
I have nothing for that, we have, you have something?
Just, no, the compliance. So. So it was around the reporting. And the. Conjunction with no. So, okay, let me. So. Religious prayers will be one. So, to the point that Yanya brought up, like the hows do we do this stuff, I think I've probably like how things are done. So it says all agency projects are subject to local law monitoring by the agency and the monitor. The applicant and or construction manager or general contractor acting as agent for the applicant on the project shall keep a logbook on site detailing the number of workers, hours worked in counties and states in which they reside. Proof of residency, include, of course, so the one that I had, representative is, it says that, which I found, let me take my time on this, responsible for account information on one. But essentially, the question that came up in my mind was, how do we enforce? Because it says here, somewhere here, that they have to first prioritize Newburgh and then like counties and, you know, that type of thing, it expands. But it doesn't say how, it doesn't say like,
O'Keefe-Road does that.
okay, so.
How they
But
monitor
like,
it, you
no,
mean?
how do they prioritize getting
Yeah.
the local labor? How do they prioritize getting the local
I see.
contractors?
Or how do they
So I think-
demonstrate
What
that
do
they're
they
doing
do?
it?
So they monitor.
Yeah.
all
Yeah,
that.
but my thing is, so I could tell you I'm monitoring, but like, am I really monitoring?
They
You
do.
know what I mean? But the thing is also is what is being monitored,
Mhm.
then I can say, okay, then you gotta monitor, you gotta look into this particular steps. Did they just go through like a quick book and then just did a log?
So
They engaged,
They would have weekly, like spreadsheets that they,
okay, alright.
have to deliver to that,
Mhm,
to Low Bro.
right,
But this policy only went into effect for new projects, so like this was not a policy for the Foundry. This I
Okay.
think starts off with the hotel.
Hotel.
Mhm.
And they have been messaging him every month, asking for
okay, here.
when his construction timeline is to begin, and they would have to have like a 2 months heads up
Mhm.
that he is going to begin.
Okay, so I
Okay.
guess this is the part that. This is the part, applicants receiving agency financial assistance as well as contractors, developers on the project shall make every effort to utilize vendors, material suppliers, subcontractors, professional services from the city of Newburgh.
Mhm.
So what is effort? How do we define that effort? You know, that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you, because that's one of the things that people could easily say, yep.
Right.
But
I
then,
know this.
the question that I have, are you looking at that more from the perspective of what our expectation is of our monitor?
Okay,
You know,
Or-
like, cause
or
are
just-
they monitoring?
Well, also, I will say to what Mama's asking, I think it says there that 85% of the labor must be local. What is local?
It says-
It is city of Newburgh, then it is the surrounding counties.
yeah,
So they're in compliance as long as they did a preference for Newburgh, we couldn't find anybody in Newburgh, then they go Rockland,
and
Westchester,
that's it.
whatever, and then they still have wiggle room in there for 15 of their
Right.
workforce to come from Pennsylvania
But
or
what
Long
about
Island.
materials and supplies? There's 2 suppliers in town.
So,
They don't get competitive prices, so they're going to, I don't know.
And to that part, well, we did, like, I'm going over that now in the cost benefit analysis with the warehouse. He is asking him like, how are you getting your supplies? Show me that you're getting it, that your plan is to get it local.
so that's. So. That's good, that show, but, for us. Right, so then how can we say we're satisfied with the effort that was put in? Oh, did you just make a call?
I
Did
think,
you have some, did you
They
get some
saved the
proposals?
receipts. I know they saved the receipts.
No,
that
I'm
they
talking
provided.
about before any money gets exchanged, you gotta get some
Well-
quotes, you gotta talk to people, you know, you gotta
yeah,
get
that's like,
contracted.
that's like, because
Mhm.
quoting you know, they're on a budget constraint, and so they're gonna go with the least expensive,
Mhm.
right? Like, so, I mean, I'm doing
Best
it, I'm
effort.
doing it myself, like, I'm
Mhm.
trying to go buy supplies locally,
Mhm.
just can't.
Mhm.
So like, I'm just going online and I'm finding it the least expensive and
And
there's.
free delivery.
And free delivery, and it's just showing up on my doorstep. I think for me personally,
Mhm.
if it's New York State, anywhere in New York State,
Mhm.
I'm okay with that.
Are we
I don't
okay with
think,
having individual interpretations, or do we want like a board?
Yeah, see, when you ask that question, I see a process,
Mhm.
like,
Mhm.
this is what we want you to do. Almost like, this is what we want you, we wanna be ensured that that we're being real about encouraging, employment, and I think it's a larger process, that's why I think at the last meeting, maybe it was,
Mhm.
or I was like,
Mhm.
how
Improvement.
real is, I was asking Connors. you know,
Okay, yeah.
How real are
Yeah.
these efforts to employ people who are locally? And it's like, you're only gonna be as accountable as you absolutely have to be. So there's gotta be some group.
but do we really think, okay, I'm just playing devil's
Sure,
advocate here.
yes, yeah.
They're a construction project, they started 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning, and they are done at 4. Realistically, I don't think the pool of people are gonna commute 3 hours to start at 7 a.m., right? Like, I don't think they're getting the bulk of their teams from Pennsylvania and New Jersey,
Yeah,
right? They're going, like, it's beneficial to them to do that portion of it locally. And there's tons of those workers around. And that's fair, I think that's a job. The supply part, for me, I think that's where we get into, like, we can't dictate. Like, they're gonna get the least expensive supplies that they can, and if that's coming
Yeah.
from like.
so
Yeah,
my thing,
outside.
so I guess I'll add a little bit more to this, right? So there is an obvious impact on like the flexibility of the project if we start putting too many micro little things, right? It's counterproductive to productivity, but here's the thing. I'm okay leaving it like that, cause I think so far, with some of the reports that we've gotten, it would be great, right? The jobs created.
We've never done this yet. We've had the policy in place.
No, the numbers reported by
Marvin?
by the Foundry so far,
Oh, okay.
yeah. But what I'm trying to say is, it's almost like, what's the balance of us saying, what was it? What was done? Maybe we need to really look into how it's being done or not done, and then be informed, and then go from there, you know what I mean? Because maybe there is, hey, this country didn't get this big by so much, honestly, like by super mind, like controlling everything, you know what I mean? It's just the way it is. So business does require some flexibility to actually, okay, it's a need, okay? But it behooves us to at least know, where do we really stand on this, right? Don't you think so? It's like, okay.
So I would say
Yeah,
Bob
are
has
we there yet?
experience
That's what I was trying to
Okay.
get to.
Bob has
Yeah.
experience with the full labor, like, and projects that have used the policy and enforced it and used the monitor. I think that's more of a question for him of like, what was your experience in the past on how they were able to enforce it, and like, what does this mean, and I think some of what you're asking is like, what you're asking for, and like up to what level do you request it, right? Because every year I ask for people to say how many people they employ, right? But like, do I ask to see payroll? I don't ask to see their social security and the pay stubs for each person that they employ, right?
Does our consultant do that?
No, Nobody's required to do that, but every year I'm required to say, how many people do you employ, how much do they make? They fill out a form and they tell me, and then that's what I
Right,
send
right,
back to ABO,
Mhm.
and that's what we report on, and that's what all
yeah,
IDAs do, that's just the level that we've been requested to do.
Right,
yeah.
So this is kind of in that same realm.
but
Mhm.
it did say here that they have to provide, they have to keep a log. And in the log that's going to our consultant,
Yeah.
it's showing like their driver's license.
They will go over that with a
They're-
fine tooth comb
right.
more than I ever could, that's
Right.
why I always
Yeah.
wanted to use them.
Exactly,
Yeah.
so they're
From the
taking care of it, so they're the ones, they're the front line who are saying like, you're coming to work here, I need like an electric
And they
bill.
do it up to the standard that is required within the policy.
Right.
If you're going to create standards that are above and beyond that, then that is maybe another question on how you engage them and, you know, at the end of the day, to what purpose does that serve? Are you gonna use that to report? But none of that is requested, like your policy is up to the standard for where you're being requested to report to.
Worst case scenario, we we provide these tools to a developer that just says, yeah, we looked into Rumble, and then they probably didn't. You know what I mean?
I think they'll have the information for you, we just haven't experienced it yet, it's kind of unknown, I think.
I mean, logistically, I'm in the middle of a renovation now, I would not hire somebody who lived 3 hours away, in another state to come work.
These are professional developers.
I know, but like,
These are people who literally make a living
The-
by pulling and
the
then
hotel
creating,
project,
and then
he's
they have
from New
systems to
York.
plug you in, plug you got a cousin. I
Yeah,
know people
yeah.
in
I
construction.
think they're all New Yorkers,
I,
I hope.
So here's the thing,
no,
right?
no,
Let me put it like this, I'll just end this thing and then
Yeah.
honestly, I'll be satisfied, I'll just say this, right? The fact that you and I can have two different perspectives on it without, and like a black and white type of thing, is the part that keeps me questioning it type of thing.
So,
You know what I mean?
yeah, and
But I
I think
understand
we're-
what you're saying.
this is very connected to the kinds of questions I was presenting to Congress, like,
Right.
how real is
Mhm.
workforce development? We say we exist to increase jobs, okay? But we are not workforce development. So it made me just think, these are things that are systems, they're not organizations. You can't find a monitor to do that. There has to be for the sake of like a political will. You know, are we the kind of place that's really going to, you know, be impressive, or say we want half of the unemployed population in Newburgh to really benefit from the work that our collaborators bring in.
Mhm.
We can't do that by ourselves, and they can't do it by themselves. You have to have this whole system working together to figure out what that is, and it takes time. That's how I was seeing it. So there's, you know, it is gonna be it's the kind of thing that people wouldn't be involved in if they thought it was really gonna penalize them and, you know, inhibit them from doing work.
Right.
And we have no better system yet.
I think those jobs are very different than the construction jobs.
Right, that's.
Those are like the
yeah.
workers who are gonna work in the end project,
Well,
but no one is,
FTE versus
Right.
construction
Yeah,
are looked
yeah,
at
yeah.
two different ways.
no one is
Exactly.
gonna train, okay, so.
Yeah,
No
but
one's
yeah,
gonna
it's a
train.
bigger, it's a bigger
Or
thing, and
construction.
as we get there, if we do, and if we start to build those kind of systems
Yeah.
throughout Newburgh, then we would say to our consultants, we would be giving more guidance, and they wouldn't be just the bare minimum that you see in the standards of New York, whatever, we'd be giving
And I think
more.
that's fair, and I think as the
We're not-
projects get bigger and more involved and more broad,
Mhm.
there's opportunity for us to say like, a percentage of this, you need to have
Mhm.
12% on the job training, you need to train, you need to hire from outside
That's
and they have to be trained.
Right,
And I think that's absolutely fair, and I think it's what the city needs.
yeah, but it takes a lot, and nobody's doing it.
No, not yet. I mean, the projects haven't been those kinds of projects.
Yeah, and the developer's not gonna do
But
that,
the,
they're just gonna be a
but the
participant.
hotel has promised
Yeah, no, they're already.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah, so
Yeah.
like that's like that's all we have so far.
yeah, got it.
That's a great example of the full-time employee that will ultimately.
Right, exactly.
But, yeah.
Yeah.
Great points. All right, other than that, I don't have any questions about the local labor policies.
So you want Bob to just maybe talk more at the board meeting in the process
About the process and
of how
the checks.
the checks and the balances.
Yeah.
I think we talked about it before, but it never hurts. This is great.
Yep.
All right, whistleblower protection policy.
Should be protected.
I have nothing there,
Protected.
Pretty,
and then I think the last one is just conflict of interest, which. Did you say
Again,
already?
that's mostly the disclosure thing.
That was the only one I had left, if you didn't, in case you didn't say it, that was the only one I had.
Oh, okay. No.
I didn't.
yeah, nothing.
Nothing on that.
Okay.
Pretty straight.
All right, so I guess we are ending today with just some notes, some reminders for the board, but no
No
suggestion changes to any other policies.
Nope.
Can you vote to adjourn?
All right,
Okay, that's it.
yeah, so we just need a vote to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
Second,
All right.
All in
All in
favor?
favor?
aye.
Abstain, opposed?
Carried.
All right.